Hello everybody. For today's warm-up we are going to look at the syllabus. I know you guys looked at it during the asynchronous week, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I am going to just highlight the super important concepts. Let's begin. Materials. You are going to want a notebook for this class so that you can take notes. I implore you, please take notes. It's important. You should, at a minimum, at least write down the steps for a certain thing we're working on, maybe a vocabulary word or an example of how to do a problem. You are not going to remember it. It is a good student habit to take notes. And the great thing about taking some notes, maybe you don't have to take copious amounts of notes, but the good thing about taking some notes is that when you're doing your homework, when you're working on a test, you can go back and look at your notes for a reference and say, oh, have I seen a question like this before? How do I do this? I can't remember. Let me go to my notes. Especially for those of you that are going to be moving on to Math 2, Math 3, that's everybody. College courses, you are going to want to learn to take notes, so get yourself a notebook so that you can take some notes. The honor code policy. We will actually talk more about this a little bit later, but the main point I want to discuss with you is that you are not to be using outside sources to answer the questions for you. That includes things like ChatGPT, PhotoMath, Gauss Math, Question AI, any of those things. You should not be using them to answer the questions. Later, when we talk specifically about the policy, if I do believe that you are using AI, I can call you to office hours and say, hey, I think this was a use of AI. I could be right, I could be wrong, but it's going to be up to you to explain to me the work that you've put down to prove that it was not from an alternate source. So just keep that in mind. Camera policy. It is NCVA policy that the camera is on all the time. It's a safety issue. I need to make sure that you're safe. There is a way that you can also show your camera only to me. I'll show you that in the Engagely session. But in the corner of your Engagely, there should be like 3 dots that opens a settings menu. When you click the 3 dots, there's something about the camera and it says show camera to instructor only. You can select that and then I'll be the only one who can see you. No one else will be able to see you. Also, when I record our session, it doesn't record anybody's camera except my own. So there's really no reason that your camera should be off, your camera should be on, and if you want to have it directed at me only so no one else can see you, that's fine. Since we just talked about the camera, we're going to move to participation and engagement because the camera is actually part of your participation grade. So every day you can get a maximum of 2 points for participation. If you had me in previous semesters, you will note that participation was done differently. This semester I'm implementing a new participation breakdown. So let me explain how it works. If you have your camera on and you complete the in-class assignments, you'll get 2 points. If you have one of those things, you'll get 1 point. And if you have neither of those things, you will get 0 points. So let's say we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and let's say we're off Friday for some reason. Let's just pretend we're off Friday. That means for that week, you can get a maximum of 8 points. Let's say Devin on Monday comes to class, he has his camera on, and he completes the in-class assignment. He'll get 2 points for that day. Tuesday, comes to class but does not have his camera on but completes the in-class assignment, that's 1 point. So your camera being on is so important for your participation grade. Wednesday comes to class, completes the assignment and has his camera on, that's 2 points. And Thursday, let's actually say Thursday the student is absent. So that's no points because you're absent. So altogether Devin will get 5 out of 8 points. How do you make up work on a day that you are absent? Right? Let's say Devin sees this grade in the gradebook and wants to make up that 0 so that Devin can get 7 points out of 8 points. Devin will have to go back to the Canvas calendar, open our class from that day, like you're going to join our live session, except now it's going to be a recording and it will take you to the playback room. You're going to watch that, do anything that I mentioned you had to do in that video, and complete the formative assignment, and then I will go back and give you the points. If you have any questions about the participation for this semester, please email me and I will be happy to discuss it with you. The next thing I want to talk about is the type of assignments that we're going to do. We will have synchronous assignments. Those are the ones we do in class. They are always due that day at 11:55. You should finish them in class, but if you don't, you finish them after class. Asynchronous assignments are the ones that are due outside of class, meaning that when our class is over and school runs, let me start with this. School goes from 8 to 4, but many of you, your classes end at 1:25. So what's going on with that time between 1:25 and 4 p.m.? You might have like a support class, or you want to go to extra office hours, or you're doing your asynchronous assignments. So asynchronous assignments are things that are assigned for you to do outside of class. Those are always also due 11:55. We talked about this yesterday on the first day of class. Every day there's like one thing we do in class, and then there's something that you're responsible for doing outside of class. So you can think of synchronous as the in-class assignment and asynchronous as the out-of-class assignment. The last thing I want to talk about are tests. This has been tricky in the past, so I want to make sure it's very clear to all students. So I've written a whole blurb about tests. Anytime we have a review day, a test will absolutely open that same day. So if you ever see us in class doing a review, a test will open that day. The test may not show up in your Canvas calendar until Friday, because Friday will be the due date. Now, technically the due date is actually Sunday, but last semester we had some trouble with this where students weren't seeing it in their calendar because it was the weekend. So I want to be clear. Whenever we do a review day, there will be a test that opens that day. So let's say, hypothetically, we do a review on Wednesday. The test will open Wednesday after class. So let's say this is our review day. The test will open that day. The test will be due on Friday. The test due date will say Friday in your Canvas calendar. If you can do it by Friday, that's great. Technically, you still have Saturday and Sunday to still complete the test. So for test, we put the due date as Friday. However, you will not get any late penalties if you do it over the weekend. So some of you are really good about saying, hey, I want to take that test on Saturday morning. I don't want to take it after school. I want to use my weekend time to take the test. You're absolutely allowed to do that, and I won't take any points off. It will be open until Sunday at 11:55. So please don't freak out. It's not late if you don't have it done by Friday. When is it late, though? If it's not done by Sunday at 11:55. So just keep that in mind for tests. When we get to the first test of our class, I'll remind you of this policy. So if it's not making complete sense now, we'll review it one more time before the first test. Okay, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that Math 1 is an EOC course. So if you're in my Math 2 class, you can disregard this, but if you are in my Math 1 class, this is an EOC course. EOC stands for end of course. That means that at the very end of the year, in December if you're taking this in the fall, or in May if you're taking this in the spring, you will have to go to a testing site and take a test in person. That's when they'll have the lockdown browsers and people kind of walking around the room, monitoring to make sure that you're working on what you're supposed to be working on. It counts as 20% of your grade. So that's a big chunk. So make sure that you start this semester off strong and that you try to stay on top of things and learn the things, because at the end of the year you will be tested on the subject material. I don't know the exact EOC dates. We will find those out later. Just in case you're curious, the classes that take an EOC are Math 1, Math 3, Biology, and English 2. There are a few other classes that take in-person exams. Those are like CTE classes like nutrition or childhood development or business. But in terms of your core classes, it's Math 1, Math 3, Biology, and English 2. The Math 1 EOC will have a calculator inactive portion and then a calculator active portion. And the calculator they provide to you is an embedded Desmos calculator. Two more things to talk to you about. The next thing is office hours. Very simply, office hours will be Thursdays from 1:30 to 2 p.m. It's optional unless I ask you to come, then it's not optional, but it's optional for the most part unless you get a direct invite from me by email and I say, hey, I need you to come to office hours for this. It is optional, but it's a great place for you to come and just ask a question or two. It's not a full lesson. It is a place where you're going to come and say, hey, I have a question about number 5 from the homework. Or, Miss Hunt, I didn't really understand what you were talking about when you talked about outliers. Can you explain that concept to me? Or you might say, Miss Hunt, I have a question about my grade and I didn't want to type it to you in an email, so I decided to pop into office hours to ask you. I think that covers everything. If you do have a question that you think could be answered by email, feel free to message me. I often send students either lengthy explanations or videos back. So if you're having trouble with something, I can send you a video back or a lengthy explanation. It just depends on the question. If I think it can be answered with an explanation in words, I'll do it. If I think it requires a video, I'll make you a video. Final thoughts. I am very excited to work with you. I know that by going over some of these policies, I may sound like a strict teacher. I am strict about routines and structure and policy, but I am also very nice and very fair and very open to answering your questions. As a teacher, you have to be both, okay? So I'm super excited to work with you. The syllabus that is in Canvas and that I've highlighted a little bit of the pieces of the syllabus today is basically the expectation, not just for you, but also of me. If you ever feel unsure about anything, please reach out. We are a team. I am here to support you, and I really want to have a successful semester with you. So again, reach out if you have any questions or if you want clarity on any of those things. I'm happy to answer, and I look forward to working with all of you this semester. Bye.